to take lots of notes because we have a lot of information to share with you today. Okay, if the Health Match team is ready, I think we are ready to get started. Again, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today to learn more about living and working as a nurse in British Columbia, Canada. My name is Tracy, and I am part of the nurse recruitment team with Health Match BC. Within Canada, we recognize and honor the rich history, cultures, and traditions of the Indigenous people who called this land home before the arrival of settlers. We also acknowledge the harm caused by colonialism, including the residential school system, and the continuing impacts of systemic discrimination. As part of our commitment to reconciliation, we are committed to listening, learning, and taking meaningful action to address these injustices. In recognition of this commitment, we begin every meeting with a territorial land acknowledgement. For myself, I am joining this webinar from Vancouver, and I respectfully acknowledge that I am on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam people. I am deeply grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and learn on these lands. Presenting with me today are Naomi, Charlotte, and Aditi from the Navigation Services team here at Health Match BC, and we also have Preet helping us out in the background. Before we get started, there are a few things to keep in mind. First, this webinar is for registered nurses who are working or have completed their education in New Zealand, the United Kingdom, or Australia. If that's not you, don't worry. Just reach out to us through your Health Match BC account, and we will connect you with the right webinar and a navigator who can help. If you completed your RN education in the United States or are currently registered there as an RN, this webinar is not for you. Your registration pathway has recently changed, so please reach out to us through your Health Match BC account to learn more. Also, as you may have noticed, this session is being recorded, but don't worry, you will not be on camera. And lastly, please hold your questions until the end. We have set aside time to answer them, and we will do our best to answer as many as we can. We do have a lot to cover today, so we'll start by talking about Health Match BC and how we support internationally educated nurses. Then we'll review what you need to know about the credentialing and registration process to work in British Columbia. We'll also provide an overview of the navigation, job search, immigration, and financial supports available through Health Match BC. And finally, we'll finish off with a Q&A and information on how you can contact us if you have questions, if you have more questions or very specific questions about your own unique circumstances. We would also like to give you the opportunity to provide feedback, so we will be using an app called Slido during this presentation, but it's easy to participate. Each time we ask a question, a QR code will appear on your screen. Scan the QR code with your phone's camera app or open your desktop browser, visit slido.com, and enter the event code that you will see on your screen. We will let you know when we're going to use Slido, so you have time to get your phone out, and it is completely anonymous, so we can't tell who's saying what. Shall we give it a try? Just use the QR code you see on your screen or your browser to open slido.com and let us know. What country are you joining us from? We'll just take a minute or so to let the answers come in. So again, just use the camera app on your phone to scan that QR code and let us know where you're joining us from. Or you can go to slido.com and put in the number you see there. So far, it looks like we have mostly people from the UK joining us, so welcome. This is great. We work with a lot of UK nurses. We've done 2 in-person recruitment visits over there and did information sessions. We were also in Northern Ireland last year at a session. We did a session in Belfast last year as well. So thank you all very much for joining us. It is wonderful to see so many people joining us from the UK. Maybe we met some of you when we were there. Let's try one more question before we move on. What inspires your interest most in moving to British Columbia? Why do you want to move to British Columbia? Is it work-life balance? Is it job opportunities? Maybe you have family here. Again, for anyone that joined us late, if you want to participate, just scan the QR code you see there using your phone's camera app. Work-life balance seems to be coming up. Love. Not sure if that means you found the love of your life here or you love the province, but congratulations either way. Job opportunities and family, we do hear that one a lot. We also do hear a lot about the natural beauty that we have in the province. Okay, we do still have a couple of people typing. We're going to move on, but don't worry, you can still keep typing. Your answers will be recorded. So I do want to thank everyone for participating, and I'm going to pass it to Naomi so she can tell you all about Health Match BC.
Thank you, Tracy. So who is Health Match BC? Health Match BC is a free recruitment service for health professionals. We're part of the BC Health Careers Network and are funded by the Government of British Columbia. We have been working with BC health authorities for over 25 years to help facilitate recruitment at over 200 facilities across the province. Our primary role is to help reduce barriers for healthcare professionals interested in working in BC and to empower them to move their careers forward while actively supporting province-wide recruitment programs and initiatives. What do we do? Well, Health Match BC is here to guide and provide support for internationally educated nurses, also known as IENs, as they navigate the credentialing, registration, job search, and immigration process to live and work as a nurse in BC. We provide navigation support as you go through the licensing process, job search support to help you identify the right community and job opportunity to begin your career in BC. We offer financial support on behalf of the Government of BC to help offset some of the costs of credentialing and registration in BC. We also offer immigration support through the BC Provincial Nominee Program. It should be noted that Health Match acts in an advisory capacity only. We do not make any decisions regarding credentialing, registration, employment, or immigration. Think of Health Match BC more like a compass. We do not build the path and we cannot walk the path for our candidates, but we are here to help them navigate along the path and guide them so that they get to where they want to be. I'm now going to hand it back to Tracy.
Thank you so much, Naomi. Before starting our overview of the licensing process, let's do one more Slido question. What are some of the challenges or concerns you have about relocating to British Columbia and going through the BCCNM registration process? Thank you to everyone that's participating in these surveys. They really do help us to make sure that we are giving you the information that you need most. It also helps because we do a whole series of webinars so that if we do not have the information that you're looking for at this stage in the process, we definitely have other webinars that might be of interest to you. This is great. Thank you so much. Again, just quickly, for those of you that joined us late, you can scan the QR code that you see on the screen with your phone and give us your answer. We're seeing lots of different things. We're seeing things around timeline, expenses, daunting process. We don't know where to start. Well, that's why we're here. We've got lots of information, and our navigators are always available to answer any questions that you have. If you're worried about finding a job, we also have a team of consultants that will help you with the job search process. So when you're working with us, you actually have a whole team of people. We have people that will help you with the navigation, so the registration process, with job search, with immigration, and even with financial support. Okay, it looks like it's slowed down, so I am going to hand it back to Naomi to review the licensing process with you.
Thanks, Tracy. So now let's take a look at the process of applying for a nursing license in BC. To work as a nurse in BC, you must have current registration with the British Columbia College of Nurses and Midwives, which we will refer to as BCCNM. To obtain registration as an internationally educated nurse, you will need to apply to both BCCNM and Inspire Global Assessments, also known as Inspire. Please note that the process that we're going over to today does not apply to internationally educated nurses who are educated or have worked as a registered nurse in the United States, or are currently licensed as a registered nurse or have begun the registration process of a registered nurse in any other Canadian province or territory. If either of these situations apply to you, please let us know so that we can provide you with the appropriate information for your specific pathway. Charlotte is now going to walk us through the process to go over the documents you'll need to submit.
Thanks, Naomi. Yeah, so let's start by looking at Inspire. Inspire is the agency that will confirm your identity and evaluate your nursing background. As part of your application, you will need to upload the following required documents to your Inspire account. These include the Inspire application form, which is now available online, notarized identification documents, and an educational credential assessment report. When all the required documents have been provided, Inspire will start the review of your application. They will contact you with information about your next steps after they have reviewed your application. Please note that as of November 27, both Inspire and BCCNM will introduce application fees. The Inspire application fee will be $600 Canadian plus tax, and the BCCNM application fee will be $690 Canadian plus tax. So we encourage you to create your BCCNM and Inspire account before this date. To verify your identity, Inspire asks that you upload 2 copies of notarized identification documents. This could be a valid passport, driver license, or a government issued ID with your name, date of birth, and photo on it. Your identification documents will need to be notarized by a notary public or a lawyer. The notarized documents you upload to your Inspire account should look like the picture shown here. Now, another document that you need to submit to Inspire is an Educational Credential Assessment Report, also known as an ECA report. An Educational Credential Assessment is a review of your nursing credentials and education. To get an ECA report, you will have to start an application with one of these 5 approved ECA agencies you see listed here. You can choose any of these agencies, but each of them have a different fee and timeline. Now, some of you might have already completed a credential review for an immigration application with one of these agencies. That ECA report, though, does not contain all the information that Inspire needs. However, you do not have to start a new ECA application. You can contact the ECA agency that you've already used and ask them to upgrade your report for an application with Inspire. When the ECA report is ready, the agency will send the report directly to Inspire. It's important to note that Inspire will not accept these reports unless they are sent directly from the ECA agency to them. I'm now going to ask Aditi to tell you more about the BCCNM application process.
Thank you, Charlotte. So as we said earlier in the presentation, to work as a nurse in BC, you must have current registration with the BC College of Nurses and Midwives, also known as BCCNM. So BCCNM recommends that IENs create an account with them while applying to Inspire. Depending on your designation, you may fill out the application for either RN, RPN, or LPN. After you have submitted your BCCNM application, you will receive an email requesting additional information. This could be all or any of the following documents. So the first document would be employment references. BCCNM will send you a form and provide you instructions on how to have it completed by your current or past employers. You will also need to submit a verification of nurse licensure from every region that you have been registered in, current or past. And lastly, a copy of your CV or resume. BCCNM would like specific information to be included in this, so more detailed instructions can be found on your BCCNM application form. While the documents discussed are your responsibility, BCCNM will also need to receive your Inspire application package before they can make a decision on your application. The Inspire application package will be sent directly from Inspire to BCCNM. Once BCCNM has received all your documents, they will review your complete application and provide you with a registration decision letter. Your decision letter will let you know what you are required to complete before you are able to be licensed. These requirements could include additional education, which could be one course or multiple individual courses. Most of these courses can be completed online. 250 hours of transitional practice experience, which is also known as TPE. And as a last step, the licensing exam for your nursing designation if you have not already passed it. So let's talk a bit more about TPE. As a part of your provisional registration with BCCNM, many of you will be required to complete Transitional Practice Experience or TPE, which is completed during the first 250 hours of work as a nurse in BC. TPE acts as an evaluation period, which allows both BCCNM and your employer to assess your current practice and ensure that you can practice safely. Your HealthMatch BC employment consultant will be able to help you find job opportunities that support your TPE requirement. However, there are a few things worth mentioning. You will have 12 months or 1 year to complete your TPE requirement after you activate your provisional registration with BCCNM. You must successfully complete your TPE requirement to maintain your registration with BCCNM, and TPE must be completed during the first 250 hours of work as a nurse in BC. So to start your TPE, you will need to find employment and then contact BCCNM to let them know that you would like to commence your TPE and provide your employment details. Once you have successfully completed your TPE, your employer will provide an evaluation form to BCCNM, who will then remove the TPE condition from your registration. After you complete your education requirements, BCCNM will grant you a provisional license to allow you to start working while you study to pass your licensing exam. Once you have passed your licensing exam and paid your annual BCCNM registration fee, you will be granted full practicing registration. The National Council Licensure Exam for Registered Nurses, also known as the NCLEX or NCLEX RN, is required for registered nurses in Canada. Please note that if you have previously completed the NCLEX, you will not be asked to do it again. So now that we've had an opportunity to review the registration process, let's do a little recap. After you've done your research and decided to start the process, you will create an Inspire and BCCNM account and submit your applications. Both accounts can be started at the same time. And also please remember, November 27th is the date when the fees will be, Inspire and BCCNM will start charging application fees. So we encourage you to, start both accounts before that date. After setting up your accounts, you will be able to begin submitting your documents to both Inspire and BCCNM. Once Inspire has all the required documents, you will create an Inspire package, and that package will be sent by them to BCCNM for final review. BCCNM will review the completed application and advise you of any transitional education. Once you have met all the education requirements, BCCNM will grant you a provisional registration to allow you to start working while you study to pass your licensing exam and also complete your TPE requirement. Once you have successfully completed your TPE, passed your licensing exam, and paid your annual registration fee, you will have full practicing registration with BCCNM. Now let's hand it back to Tracy for some more Slido questions.
Thank you so much, Aditi. Now that Aditi and the team have reviewed the registration or the licensing process with you, can you let us know, where are you in the registration process? Have you already applied to BCCNM and Inspire? Have you only applied to one? Do you have your decision letter yet? Or maybe you haven't applied yet. Again, if you joined us late, please use the camera app on your phone to scan the QR code you see on the screen, or use your browser to go to slido.com and put in the event code that you see there. So let us know, where are you in the registration process? So far, it looks like about 40% of the people answering have not yet applied, but many of you have applied to Inspire, both Inspire and BCCM, or to one or the other. So that's great news. Thank you so much. For those of you that are still putting in your answers, you have time, but I am going to hand it back to Naomi, who will share some information about financial supports that you might be eligible for.
Thanks, Tracy. So let's take a look at bursaries. Through Health Match BC, the Government of British Columbia provides financial support to IENs registering with BCCNM. They offer bursaries in the forms of reimbursement to help cover the costs of becoming licensed in BC. On this chart, you can see a brief overview of the financial supports that are available. You may be reimbursed up to $1,200 Canadian for your Education Credential Assessment report. As of November 27th, up to $600 Canadian plus taxes for your Inspire application fee, and $690 Canadian plus taxes for your BCCNM application fee. Lastly, you could be reimbursed up to $10,000 Canadian for tuition fees related to any transitional education you've been referred to do by BCCNM. Let's quickly review who is eligible for the IEN bursaries. Applicants who apply to the IEN bursary program must commit to a return of service agreement with the Government of BC and meet the following criteria. BC must be the only province that the applicant has applied for registration in as a nurse. Those already licensed in another Canadian province or territory are not eligible. Applicants will also need to have a Canadian social insurance number and a Canadian bank account to receive funds. For most applicants, this means that reimbursement can only occur once you've relocated to British Columbia. For more details regarding eligibility for the IEN bursaries, please visit the Nursing Jobs BC website or reach out to your navigator at Health Match BC. Now, let's take a closer look at the Return of Service Agreement. The Return of Service Agreement, or ROS for short, is an agreement between you and the Government of BC in exchange for receiving financial supports. By signing an ROS agreement, you are committing to complete 1 year full-time or 2 years part-time of work with a publicly funded health employer of your choice within BC once you are licensed. When an internationally educated nurse signs a return of service agreement, they will be able to apply to the IEN bursary program for reimbursement of costs as noted on the previous slide. The return of service agreement is not a bursary reimbursement application. By signing the agreement, it does not mean that you are automatically eligible for reimbursements through the IEN bursary program. By signing this agreement, you would be committing to maintaining your eligibility for the bursaries and working with a publicly funded health employer for an agreed upon amount of time. I'm now going to pass it back to Charlotte to tell you about some of the other supports available through HealthMatch BC.
Thanks so much, Naomi. Yeah, we know that the registration process can be overwhelming, so our navigation team is here to help. Navigators, like myself, will work with you to answer any questions you might have about the licensing process, provide up-to-date information and guidance, connect you to the people and services you need to be connected with, and provide encouragement and support as you navigate the process to work as a nurse in BC. Anytime you have any questions, please log into your HealthMatch BC account and send us a message. One of our navigators will be in touch to assist you. HealthMatch BC provides a wide range of services to support you throughout your recruitment journey. In addition to navigational and financial assistance, we offer personalized job search support to help you find the right job in a community that suits you. Once eligible for BCCNM registration, our employment services team will work with you to identify healthcare facilities and communities that align with both your personal and professional goals. We understand that finding the right opportunity goes beyond just a job. It's about balancing career, lifestyle, and family needs. Our team considers factors like location, work-life balance, and community to help you find a position that meets all of your expectations. We will also connect you with public health employers and provide personalized support throughout your job search journey. With ongoing feedback and guidance, we are here to help you find a position that aligns with your long-term career objectives. We also have a dedicated immigration team. That team provides support for your work permit and permanent residency applications through the BC Provincial Nominee Program, which we also refer to as BCPNP. BCPNP is a pathway to permanent residency specifically designed for skilled workers and recent graduates who have education, experience, or expertise in high-demand healthcare professions in BC. This program provides a unique opportunity for healthcare professionals to quickly establish themselves in BC while contributing to its growing healthcare workforce. Once you are eligible to practice as a nurse with BCCNM and have received a formal full-time job offer from a BC public health employer, our immigration services team would be happy to provide you with essential information. Now I will pass it back to Tracy.
Thank you, Charlotte. Before we move on to the question and answer portion of today's webinar, we're going to do one last Slido question. Could you let us know what your favorite part of today's webinar was? Again, just scan the QR code that you see there or join us at slido.com and put in the number you see. Let us know what was your favorite part of today's webinar or which part you found most useful. The use of Slido. We really like Slido too. We also get a lot of information. So thank you again to everyone that's participated. It really does help us out. All the parts. Thank you. That's very kind. This is great. We still have a few people typing. And thank you for noticing that we do try to keep it in a step-by-step process so that it makes more sense for everybody. Hopefully you were able to take lots of notes. There is a lot, but we do have people here to help you. Our navigators are always available to answer any questions about the registration process. I know that we have shared a lot of information today, and it probably feels a little overwhelming, but that's why we do have the navigators here to help you, and I encourage you to reach out to them through your Health Match BC account. On behalf of our entire team, I do want to sincerely thank you for taking the time to learn more about our programs and the supports available for internationally educated nurses who want to practice in BC. We're now going to move on to the questions that were submitted when you registered for this webinar. So we do have a number of them that you submitted when you registered, and we will go through and answer as many as we can. But you are also welcome to use the Q&A function that you will see at the bottom of your screen to ask any additional questions you may have, and we'll do our best to answer those as well. So for our first question, we are going to start off with the top 2 questions that were submitted the most often by today's attendees. So the first is regarding what to do after submitting all your required documents and how long the process might take. So Naomi, I'm going to ask this one of you. This is from someone who has submitted all their documents to Inspire and wants to know what happens next.
Yeah, great question. So once Inspire has all the required information and documents, they'll create something called a package, which is then sent to BCCNM to support your application for registration. If you've submitted all your documents to Inspire and you still haven't heard from them after several weeks, I would encourage you to review all the required documents to ensure they were submitted correctly. If you feel that all of the documents had been submitted correctly, then you might want to email Inspire directly to confirm. At this point as well, you'd also want to reach out to your navigator at Health Match BC. Your navigator can connect you to the recruitment team for some job search support while you wait to receive your BCCNM registration decision letter.
That's great. Thank you so much. Charlotte, I have one for you as well. The second question, most received question, was around the NCLEX exam. And we've had people ask is the NCLEX required for registered nurses from the UK, Australia, and New Zealand?
Yeah, good question. And the short answer is yes. NCLEX is definitely needed for actually any nurse who would like to practice in Canada and specifically BC. So not only nurses coming from the UK, Australia, or New Zealand would have to write that final registration exam, but also nurses coming from the US or other parts of the world, including our own Canadian nurses who complete their education here. So yeah, any registered nurse would have to write the NCLEX and pass it.
Thank you. But the good news is if you've already passed it, it's very, very unlikely you would ever have to write it again.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Yes. Some of you might have already passed it. Let BCCNM know once you apply with them so they are aware. And yeah, you won't have to rewrite it or rewrite it.
Fantastic. We have a number of questions that came in about processing and delays, so about timelines. So Charlotte, I'm going to ask you a few questions about that. Someone's asked, how can they get registered faster?
I mean, I wish I had some sort of button that someone could push for that, but it doesn't really exist. So the registration pathway that we went over in today's presentation is the fastest route for nurses coming from the UK, Australia, or New Zealand, registered nurses, that is. So yeah, I would say though, to avoid any delays with maybe Inspire or BCCNM, always check if the documents that you submit to them are correct. So make sure that your ID documents are actually notarized by a lawyer or a notary public. Make sure that your ECA report was sent by the agency, and don't send a copy of that report to Inspire yourself, because as mentioned during today's presentation, they won't be able to accept it that way. So yeah, I hope that answered the question a little bit.
Okay, one more for you. Well, a couple more for you. Is the process different for IENs who are already Canadian citizens?
Yeah. The registration process in itself is no different. So that means that IENs who are already Canadian citizens would still apply to Inspire, would still apply to BCCNM and provide them with the necessary required documents. However, Canadian citizens, of course, wouldn't be looking for any visas to be working or a permanent residency. So that part of your journey, it wouldn't include that part of the journey. If you are a Canadian citizen, it might be quicker to find a job because you're ready to work right away and you're not waiting for the BC PNP nomination to come in or your work permit to come in. But the registration process is no different. No.
That's great. One more for you, Charlotte. Someone has asked if their Inspire and BCCNM application expire.
Ooh. Yeah, so that's a good question. So if when you apply to Inspire and BCCNM, the application is good for 1 year. What that means is that for Inspire, once you create that application or you create your account online, you have 1 year to submit your notarized ID documents and that ECA report that we were talking about earlier today. However, if you're not able to complete that within that 1 year, you can usually ask for an extension, both with Inspire and BCCNM. Now, in the past, because application fees were waived, there was no cost to it. Now, after November 27th, as we mentioned earlier today, application fees will come to play. So I could see Inspire and BCCNM asking for an additional fee when you ask for an extension after that 1 year has passed. So yes, I hope that was a bit clear. Yeah,
That was great. Thank you so much. I'm now
of course.
going to ask Naomi a couple of questions. Naomi, someone has asked, how long does this process typically take for an RN registered specifically in the UK?
Yeah, good question. So as I mentioned before, once you've successfully submitted all your required documents to Inspire, they'll review your application and send your Inspire package to BCCNM. While it's hard to provide exact timelines, most internationally educated nurses from the UK and New Zealand and Australia, for that matter, can generally expect the registration process to approximately take maybe 4 to 6 months after all of the Inspire documents have been submitted and the package has been sent to BCCNM. The overall timelines can vary depending on how quickly you're able to get all the required documents completed and submitted. So what I would encourage everyone to do is, if they're looking to relocate as quickly as possible, work on their education credential assessment report, because that can sometimes take a little bit of time to gather documents and your notarized documents, and then start your application right away.
Thank you. This question is specifically from an RN in Australia, but they were an RN previously for 10 years in the Philippines, but I guess it could really be a RN previously in any other country, and they want to know what pathway they should take.
Right. BCCNM considers nursing education or practice from Australia, the UK, and New Zealand as largely comparable to a registered nursing practice in Canada. So if you've completed your nursing education in Australia or have at least 1,125 hours of RN practice in Australia or those other countries, for that matter, within the last 5 years, you'll likely qualify for the pathway that we've discussed today. So this means that you could move through the registration process more quickly and potentially begin practicing in BC sooner.
Thank you. One more for you. And this one is from an LPN, a licensed practical nurse, who wants to know if they need to complete the CBA and SLA with Inspire.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, short answer, yes. All internationally educated licensed practical nurses have to complete a computer-based assessment and a simulation lab assessment through Inspire Global Assessments. If you're an internationally educated LPN, I'd encourage you to reach out to us through your Health Match BC account so we can provide you with some additional support throughout this process.
Great, thank you. I'm now going to ask Charlotte a few questions about Inspire. Charlotte, someone's asked if they can use WES for their credentialing.
Absolutely. Yep. WES is one of the, oh, thank you, Preet. Preet just pulled up the correct slide. So fast. I love it. Yes, so as you can tell, WES is actually one of the first that is listed here. They are one of the 5 approved ECA agencies. You can for sure apply to them. And as I mentioned during the presentation, if you already applied to them for maybe an immigration purpose in the past, maybe check with them if they can upgrade that report for an Inspire application. So yeah, short answer is yes, definitely.
Great. I have another one for you. This is from an LPN who wants to know if this is the licensing pathway for LPNs as well as RNs.
So the licensing pathway that we went over today is specifically for RNs, so registered nurses. So although some steps are definitely similar, like applying to BCCNM and Inspire, I would say maybe reach out to your navigator through your Health Match BC account so they can guide you a little bit further. LPNs will have to complete the computer-based and simulation lab assessment with Inspire. So it is a bit different. And again, I would encourage you to reach out to your navigator to get more detailed information on what your next steps would be.
Thank you. One more question for you. This is from someone who has received an email from Inspire Global Assessments saying that they need to complete a BCCNM online application to process their Inspire application, and they want to know why.
Yeah, I know that seems a bit silly, maybe, because you're working with Inspire. So why is Inspire asking you to create a BCCNM account or application? Actually, as we mentioned, it's you would need to apply to both. So Inspire would always check with you to see if you indeed apply to BCCNM as well. So again, I encourage you to apply to both Inspire and BCCNM, set up those 2 online accounts, fill out that application form with both of them to get things rolling. And especially now that the fees will come to play November 27th. Yeah, I hope that helps a bit.
Great. I'll give you a break now and I will ask Naomi a couple of questions about Inspire. So Naomi, this is from someone who, when they log into their Inspire account, everything appears blank. That would be a little bit scary. They want to know what they should do.
Yeah, that's a good question. So Inspire did change their computer system software a while back. So if that does happen and you experience a blank screen, please notify Inspire so they can correct it. Simply just send them an email with your account number and let them know that you've got a blank screen and they'll reset it for you. It's really easy.
One more question, and it's similar to one that Charlotte answered, this is from someone who's applied to WES, the World Education Services, and they're also registered with NNAS. Are both reports acceptable?
Yeah, both of the Education Credential Assessment Services, WES and NNAS, are accepted by Inspire, but you're only required to complete one for them to proceed with your application. So for WES, you'll need to ensure that you've requested the correct report and ensure that WES is sending the report directly to Inspire. For NNAS, it's a little bit different. You'll need to inform Inspire that you're using NNAS as your Education Credential Assessment report, and they'll send a request for the advisory report to be sent from BCCNM to Inspire. To find out more about all of the education credential agencies that are listed on the page here, I'd suggest visiting the Inspire website where they're all listed along with all of the costs and the associated processing times.
Thank you. And
Helpful.
I'm gonna sneak in one question for you about English language proficiency. And it's from someone who's lived in the UK and they've been educated in English. They want to know if they have to complete an English language proficiency test.
Yeah, if your nursing education or your work experience was completed in the UK, Australia, or New Zealand, you've likely already met the English language proficiency requirement and won't need to submit any additional English language test results. However, if you're from any other country, Inspire accepts 4 different types of English language proficiency tests, like the CELBAN, IELTS Academic, OET, or Pearson PTE. So they may request that of you if you're not those.
Around and application fees being introduced on November 27th. Will the return of service still help them?
Yeah, it's actually a question that we've been getting a lot lately, and it's such a fair question too. So maybe not everyone has realized that a cost has always been associated with assessing applications. So during the IEN Pathway pilot program, the fees were paid on behalf of IENs through funding from the government of BC. And now the government is providing all funding through a reimbursement of fees. And that would be through the IEN bursary program rather than waiving the application fee upfront. So that means that the funding is still available, but through a different process. So signing that return of service agreement will still allow you to receive an invite to apply for reimbursements through that IEM bursary program once you are in Canada. Yeah, and that's basically the gist of that.
That's great. Another question that was asked is, when does the financial assistance start and how do they apply for reimbursements?
Yeah, so in order to receive the actual payment, one of the eligibility criteria would be for you to have a Canadian social insurance number and a Canadian bank account. So once you land in Canada, you will be able to apply for both of those things. What you do is you would flag it to your navigator or somebody from the bursary team, and then they would be happy to send you an invite to apply for the IEM bursary program. And then, yeah, you will receive an online form where you can fill out your details and upload some receipts. So definitely hold on to your receipts. When you apply to an ECA agency, hang on to that receipt. Yeah, and that was basically how that would be done. So make sure to have that Canadian SIN and Canadian bank account.
That's great. One more question. Does the employer provide financial assistance for relocation?
Yeah, so that's something I'd say that you can discuss during your negotiations. So some health authorities will provide some relocation incentives to candidates. It is really depending on the health authority, the location, but also sometimes the role that you are interviewing for. So it's not out of the question at all. I've seen it happen multiple times in my years here. So yeah, great question. It's definitely there, but it will depend per employer and health authority.
Thank you. Naomi, I've got a couple of questions for you around TPE. Someone has asked, what happens when you are given the provisional RN license and are asked to complete a 250-hour TPE? How do they start their TPE?
Oh, that's a great question. I really encourage everybody to talk about TPE with their navigators. But what happens is that when you receive your provisional registration, it means that you can start working while you finish your final steps by BCCNM. So that includes passing your nursing exam and completing what's called the Transitional Practice Experience, the TPE. Think of the TPE as like a final evaluation for your full registration. You'll need to complete 250 hours of hands-on nursing practice to show that you can provide safe, competent, and ethical care. During that time, you'll be working independently in your own area of expertise and within the full scope of practice of an RN in BC. You'll start counting your hours from your very first day of work with your employer. It's always a good idea to talk to your employer about your TPE during the hiring process. And don't forget to bring a copy of your TPE evaluation form with you on your first day. Once you've finished the 250 hours, your supervisor, nurse educator, or nurse leader, whoever is directly observing you, will complete the evaluation and send it directly to the BCCNM. If there's anybody curious about what the form looks like, you can actually find a sample right on the BCCNM website. It's called Form 157.
Thank you. One more question. Do employers support or do they hire applicants that have to complete TPEs?
Yeah, employers absolutely do. Most of the employers are familiar with the process, and because you would have started the conversation early on during the hiring process, there shouldn't be any surprises. The TPE is really just simply a way for the BCCNM, your employer, and you to confirm that you're practicing safely, competently, and ethically within the BCCNM's framework and scope of practice. What I would encourage is that everyone who's going to be doing a TPE become familiarized with BCCNM's professional standards, practice standards, and scope of practice before starting their TPE. They're really good documents and right on the BCCNM website.
Thank you. Charlotte, I've got some questions for you around the NCLEX. Looks like the first one is in two parts, so I'll give you both parts. Is there any study material to prepare for the NCLEX exam? And if they pass the NCLEX exam already, do they have to take it again?
Yes, there are definitely different study materials online that our navigation team would be happy to share with you. So log into your HealthMatch BC account and shoot your navigator a message, and we would be happy to share that with you. It can be a more challenging exam, right? I think lots of nurses feel challenged by it. So I would encourage everybody to look at those study materials because it's out there. So why not, review it, study up a bit, and feel more confident for that exam. And if you've passed that exam already, you're kind of lucky because you don't have to do it again. And as I mentioned earlier, let BCCNM know, and then they will give you some instructions on how to provide proof of having passed that NCLEX exam.
That's great. Thank you. And on the other side of that, someone's asked, what happens if they fail the NCLEX exam? Can they retake it?
Yes, so you can retake the NCLEX exam. That isn't a problem. I must say though, if you have an active provisional registration with BCCNM, if you fail it, you can retake it. That's not a problem. If you happen to fail it a second time though, BCCNM will be notified and they will reach out to you to basically pause or put a hold on your provisional registration. That doesn't mean that you would have to restart this entire registration process all over again, luckily. It just means that they will have to pause your provisional registration for a little bit until you have passed your NCLEX exam. And even then, if you would have to take it, I don't know, let's say 4 more times, that's okay. You can take it as many times as you'd like.
That's great. Thank you. Naomi, I have a question for you. It's on a bit of a different track. This is from a nurse educated outside of Canada, but who recently received their RN registration in another Canadian province, so other than BC. They want to know if they can still apply to BC as an IEN and get the IEN supports.
Yeah, good question, actually. You can still apply to BCCNM, but your pathway would look a little bit different. So once you're licensed in another province, you're no longer considered an internationally educated nurse for BC's initial pathway. Instead, you'd apply through the Canadian nursing pathway. So keep in mind that if you don't have 1,125 hours, that's the magic number, of RN work experience in that province where you're registered, you may need additional assessments to gain registration in BC. So if this is your situation and you've got registration in another Canadian province, reach out to your navigator at Health Match BC through your account, and your navigator can connect you to the Canadian nursing team who can walk you through your next steps.
That's fantastic. I have a couple more questions for you about immigration, Naomi, so don't go away. Someone, I love this question. We get it all the time. Someone's asked if they can bring their spouse and children with them immediately, or do they need to travel to BC first and start working?
Oh, you know what? Absolutely. We love to keep families together. So come as a group if you can. If you're applying through the BC Provincial Nominee Program for your immigration pathway, your spouse and any eligible dependents under the age of 22 can be included in your application. So that means your family can come with you right from the start and you can all settle in together.
Thank you. One more for you. Well, yeah, one more. What kind of visa will they require to work in Canada?
Oh, yeah. So to work in Canada, you do need a work permit. So if you're from an eligible country and you qualify, a working holiday visa might be an easy way to access this. However, if your goal is permanent residency, Health Match BC does have an immigration team that can guide you through the process with IRCC through their BC PNP pathway.
Thank you. We are coming close to the end of our time, but so I'll just take a couple more questions from this list and I'll give them to you, Charlotte. Someone has asked, when can they start the process to migrate to Canada?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so as mentioned during our presentation, once you have that BCCNM provisional registration, you can start working with our employment services team. They would be happy to help you find a nursing job here in BC. And to apply through the BC PNP process, you would be looking at a full-time job as a nurse with a health authority here in BC. So once you've signed such a job offer with a health authority, you can start that BC PNP application process. And as we mentioned, our immigration team would be so happy to walk you through that process. So once you have that BC provisional license together with a full-time job offer from a health authority, you can start that process to migrate to Canada or BC in specific.
Great. I'm going to give you one last question because it's one we do get a lot. Someone wants to know if there's an age limit to apply for BCPNP.
There isn't. There isn't. Nope. So again, if you have that license or that registration with BCCNM, either a provisional registration or a full registration, if you've already passed your NCLEX exam, and you have that full-time job offer with a health authority in BC, you can apply to BCPNP.
That's great. Thank you so much, Charlotte and Naomi, and Aditi, who's been in the background answering questions through the chat function or the Q&A. We are at time now, but it has been great speaking with all of you and answering your questions. As we end this session, some of the main takeaways that we'd like to leave you with today are: 1, please check that all your Inspire documents have been submitted correctly. 2, have your identification documents notarized by a notary public or lawyer. And 3, make sure your ECA reports get submitted to Inspire Global Assessments directly by the agency. If you have any further questions, please reach out to us through your Health Match BC account and we would be happy to help you. Thank you for listening to us, and we look forward to working with you. Have a great evening, everybody.